Hello and welcome to another edition of Tribulation Ready Survival. I'm Michael, and today I have got a simple project for you that's going to increase the security of your home that you probably never thought of, maybe never heard of, but I'm going to tell you a short story about it, and then you'll know what this fork's about. I'm going to dedicate this video to the memory of Levi Minkovich, who passed away in an accident, and he was a former police officer. He was a great dude, and this fork gave him a bad day. Not this particular fork, but a fork gave him a bad day. So here's how the story goes. You all know that I was a police officer, and I retired, and my second day as acting sergeant, we got dispatched to a house that I know a bad guy lived in. We had a warrant for his arrest. We knew he was home, at least at the point that somebody called and said he was there. So someone said they saw the bad guy. We went over there to arrest him. We got to the front door of the house. We could hear somebody inside. He must have escaped through the back door while we were trying to fiddle around with the front door. So my friend and former officer, fellow officer, Levi Minkovich, who stands about 6'2"-ish, almost 300 pounds, and bodybuild muscle guy. This guy, muscle, super, super strong. Probably one of the strongest people I've ever known. So anyway, it was his job to kick in the front door. We were going to serve this felony arrest warrant. His job was to kick in the front door on this, probably built in the 1960s house. Just your standard looking house, 2 or 3 bedroom house. And so I think he had about a size 11 foot. And he goes to kick in the door. Boom, 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 multiple times. And where is he kicking? He's kicking in the area of the doorknob. The weakest side of the door is where the striker goes into the strike plate, because it only sinks in about a 1/4 inch, maybe a 1/2 inch at the most, and then there's a deadbolt. Deadbolt wasn't locked. So we knew the only thing we had to defeat was this doorknob with a regular doorknob lock. Well, he kicked and kicked and kicked and kicked. He must have kicked it 7, 8 times. The door did not give. It started to bend a little bit, but the door did not give. We finally ended up going around the back of the house and making entry through the back of the house. We cleared the house. He had fled at that point, probably before we started kicking the door. And we didn't know he had fled. We had to clear the house, so we entered the house from the back door, cleared the house to find that he was not there. Upon further investigation of the door that was being kicked on the front of the house, we found that the door lock had been reinforced with a fork. And I took some pictures of it, never seen such a thing in my life. But it defeated us from getting in that front door. Big dude, regular door. That door was gonna slow us down a lot. Did it increase the security of that house? Absolutely it did, and I'm gonna show you how to make it. So, for this project, you're gonna need a fork. You're gonna need a fork. This is a regular kitchen fork I picked up at a big box store. But you don't just need any fork. You can't use any fork. You've got to take this area right here in between the 2 tines, and you've got to make sure that this end back here is going to fit through here, which it does. Okay? And it doesn't have to be super smooth. This one's a little tight in some places, but it fits generally in there. Okay? just like that. That's important because you're going to be using the back end of this fork to slide in to the fork just like this, and I'll show you how in a little bit to lock the door in a whole lot different way to lock it better. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this fork, we're going to place it in the striker plate here in just a second, and I will show you how to mark it. So what you see here is the door latch and the striker plate. The striker plate has the latch come across, bang, sinks in. This is only about a 1/4 inch, maybe at most 1/2 inch deep. And you'll see that these screws are not original. I'll talk to you about those here in a minute. However, what you're going to do is you're going to place your fork in the front of the striker plate. And then you're going to run your Sharpie, you're going to take a Sharpie and you're going to run it across where the striker plate meets the fork. You're just going to make a line straight across. Okay, so I'm going to try and get the light on this the best you can. You can see where I hit the striker plate and I ran my Sharpie all the way across here. Now, this is what you have to do. You have to bend these tines right here up at about a 45-degree angle from this this straight across area. So you're going to want to bend it up 45 degrees. And you can do it however you want to. I have often taken, when I've made these, I'll take it across the front slope of a concrete stairs. You can use pliers. You can use slip joint pliers. I wouldn't recommend heating it because you don't want it to become brittle. But you've got to bend it at a 45-degree angle. So that's what we're going to do next. So I've got my slip joint pliers at exactly where I want it, and I'm going to bend it. Do it slowly, because if you don't do it, if you do it too fast, then you could end up breaking these. And you don't want them broken. You want them to be able to bend and maybe even adjust them later if necessary. Okay? So, getting close. Nice and slow. Okay. And you'll see that inside here, the metal is still intact. Still intact. And it's solid. So is this. And that's what you want. Okay? The next thing you're going to do is you're going to cut the end of this fork off about right here, maybe an inch or so above the area where it comes together. Okay? So I'm going to mark where I want it. And you're going to keep both halves of this fork. So what I'm going to do is, you might use a pair of slip joint pliers like you did here, but that's going to be a little difficult. You could bend it if you wanted to, but I want to get this as accurate as possible. So you can take a hacksaw, like what I've got here. You can take a hacksaw to it, or if you're cool and you got power tools, you can take a grinder to it. I think I'm going to take a grinder to it because I get to play with power tools. So what I've done, because I don't have a vise, taken 2 small screws, screwed it on here. It's very solid. Didn't affect hardly anything here. It's not really a big deal at this point. But it could have gone out a little bit further. Either way, it's not perfect. So I've got my line right here. I have my power tool right here. And I'm going to give this baby a whirl. Now, mind you, there were a few sparks there. Not a big deal. You just got to be careful not to have your lawnmower gas can or anything like that that can catch fire. And if something does catch fire, of course you know what to do. Alright, we're back. So I've already filed off this end. Now it's time to file off the fork. It's got a little bit of a burr. The actual fork's got a little bit of a burr here. And you don't want it to cut your hand. So I'm going to run it across this file a little bit. A little bit oddly satisfying here. Just to smooth it down. Smooth, smooth, smooth. All right, no one's going to get cut or poked. So now we have our door lock. Okay, so what you'll see is we've got our striker plate. This is going to fit in perfectly, just like that. Okay? And so what we'll do is we'll insert it here in a second, just like this, and shut our door. Inserted, door shuts. This will not come out. The next thing you're going to do is you'll come from this side and you'll insert it into the middle of the fork tine and you will hold it just like this. Okay, it will not come through because the wide end down here pinches here. So what happens is, even with a deadbolt on, deadbolt off, this door will not open because it hits here, or it'll hit on the inside of the door. If you want to shorten it up, you can. You can make some modifications. The fact of the matter is you want it to not, you want it to make contact with the door, and that's what it's doing. It'll put a scratch here. But again, what this does is it transfers the energy being forced into this door from this striker plate onto this. In some cases, there's a 2x4 and then another 2x4 in this door frame. But it transfers the energy coming from this door onto this 2x4 in the strongest place possible, right here. So if someone kicks this door, and kicks this door, and kicks this door, it's going to transfer the energy here and not to the striker plate. The striker plate is going to help hold this in place. Okay? So physics says that this is going to reinforce your door. Let's talk about how to even reinforce your door a little bit more. Now, on this door, you will notice a couple of things. On this hinge, I have a regular screw, a regular screw, regular screw. Uh-oh. That's a Starhead T25 deck screw. And that's 3 inches deep, 3 inches long. I have one there, and another one down here. As well as, to reinforce the striker plate, don't worry about the deadbolt. But right here, here, and here. These are 1.5 inch screws that are in the striker plate, as well as the hinges are 3-inch screws. Okay, so here we're looking at the standard construction of a door. Now, we'll get to that here in just a second. On the striker plate that I just showed you, I want to show you a typical screw that is that is used to hold that on. Okay? That screw it's so small you can't even see it. That is less than 1 inch. We got to zoom in here. It is less than an inch. It's actually 3/4 of an inch. Okay? So once we get it under about 3/4 of an inch, that thing is just holding the striker plate on. It doesn't do anything to secure the door. It doesn't even go into the wood that we're going to talk about here in a second. You want to use a screw like this. A 1 1/4 inch screw, because it will go through your typical 2x4 piece of wood or go into it, because it will secure further into the 2x4 piece of wood than this one. Now, which one do you think is going to hold better? Yeah, that's what I thought. This one right here. So that's just one way to reinforce it. And as I showed you on the hinges, this is a 3-inch deck screw. This is going to hold those hinges into that wood. Now here's what I'm trying to show you, because this is a 2x4, okay? Now if I were to drill this into the hinge is already on there, it's going to go through this 2x4, and behind that 2x4 is something that looks like this. This is the typical construction of a door. And for example, right here, your striker plate for your door lock is going to go right into here, and it's going to sink mainly all the way a 1/4 inch into this wood. Only a 1/4 inch. But you have so much wood. You have a 2x4 here and a 2x4 here, and you have the same thing on the other side, a 2x4 and a 2x4. Now, if you look at the door, this 2x4, they call it a trimmer, if you will, really is only screwed together against, this is called a king right here, because it runs from the very top of the frame to the very bottom, to what is known as the bottom plate. Okay, all the way down to the bottom, there's a plate just like up here at the top that runs all the way across the floor. Okay, so the only thing that you have is this piece of wood right here to reinforce this. Okay, yeah, they're screwed together or nailed together, more likely nailed. But to get strength in this door when someone's kicking it, you want to take this screw or something similar that's going to go through a piece of 2x4. This will be your inside part of the door, and this would be your king. And so do you see how much further this goes in? You could use a little bit shorter, but what it does is it reinforces those hinges and puts the strength in those hinges all the way through this piece of wood into this piece of wood, which is attached to the entire frame of the wall. Okay, that is going to exponentially increase the strength of just one screw in each hinge is going to exponentially increase the strength of those hinges, each one of them, and is not going to hold the door on if somebody really, really wants to come through your door, through it with a battering ram or a car, or kicking it even, it's going to take them a while. It's going to delay them so that you have the opportunity to react to someone crashing in your door and do whatever you have to do to defend yourself or run away or hide or whatever your plan is. The fact of the matter is, this door is going to be solid. It's going to be difficult to get through, and if it's just someone trying to break into your house, they may just give up. So, that concludes this episode of Tribulation Ready Survival. I would like to note one warning here. These are not to be used for illegal criminal purposes. These are to be used to secure your home from anyone who may try to come in and harm you. Not that anyone is paranoid, but we all deserve to have security in our home from anyone who may try to enter to try and harm us in any way. So use these at your own discretion, and understand that when you make a modification to your home, that liability is left up to you, not to me. So if you decide to do this, hey, that's cool. But I can tell you that I have seen it work, and it works well. And if it's kept me out of a house with the big guy trying to kick through the door, then it's probably worth trying if you're trying to secure yourself. So, with that being said, if you have any comments, if you have any suggestions, or if you want to reach out to us on Facebook or the comments down below, please do so. And we like to get social, and we also learn from you. So if you have a better idea than what I've got, then I'd like to hear it. We just might try it and see how it works. Thanks again for your time, guys, and have a good one.